各位同事，我哋夠鐘亦都夠快。
Good afternoon, members. We have already formed a quorum. It is also time to start the meeting. So let's start the meeting immediately. We have quite a number of items on the agenda. So I suggest that you keep your questions and answers short when the administration joined us.
就係透過 CB括弧1142 12至13。
In relation to the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 16th of October, we have sent it out to you as CB bracket 1142/12 to 13. Any amendments proposed? No. Minutes confirmed. And then, since the last meeting, we have received one paper. And that's from the HKGCC, and it has already been tabled for your reference concerning the Cleaner Production Partnership Program. As to the items for the next meeting will be held on the 18th of December. The administration has told us that they would like to take up two issues. First of all, municipal solid waste charging scheme. I'm sure everybody will be very concerned about this. And then the second one is about the restriction of sale of energy inefficient incandescent light bulbs. So we'll be visiting these two items at the next meeting. As to the electricity tariff, that is of great concern to you. In fact, it isn't within the remit of this panel. The scheme of control agreements as well as the tariff are within the responsibility of the Economic Development Panel, and they just had a meeting this morning. As to the environmental problems caused by power generation, this can indeed be taken up by us. And in fact, the two topics are interrelated. Emission reduction will reduce their fixed asset value. Therefore, please note the development. We'll be keeping it in view, and we will be liaising with the chair of the Economic Development Panel chairman. And when they do have a meeting, they will keep us informed. And in fact, they always extend the invitation to all members of the LegCo whenever they talk about tariff reviews. And then, in relation to the works project at Long May, I took up the matter with Mr. Ma Feng-Guok, chairman of the Home Affairs Panel, as early as middle of November. The HAP members would like to have a joint panel meeting. At the time, they didn't have an agenda yet. At first, they would like to have a meeting with us together, but then that would only allow us to have a session of 35 minutes. I don't think there will be adequate time for members from both panels to have an adequate discussion. Therefore, I advised or I suggested to Mr. Ma that it's better not to have a joint session at today's meeting of the EAP. Our conclusion was that there should be a joint panel meeting. At first, we would like to have it on the 23rd of November, but then the two directors of bureaus could not attend, and so we have deferred it until the 30th of November. So for members who are concerned about the works project or who would like to have no project there, please pencil in your diary. The meeting will be held on the 30th of November. Without further ado, I would like to invite the officials from the administration to join us, and that's in relation to the sewerage at Clear Water Bay Road, Pik Shui Sun Tsuen, and west of Sai Kung town. So paper CB bracket 191/12 to 13 bracket 02. This is sort of to go through the panel for subsequent submission to the PWSC. I would like to welcome the representatives from both the Policy Bureau as well as the department. They're here to help us with the item on the sewerage project. So first of all, let me introduce the guest speakers to you. We have Ms. Christine Low, Undersecretary for the Environment. I'm sure everybody is familiar with her, and I won't introduce her again next time she comes. We have also got Ms. Amy Yun, Assistant Director, EPD, responsible for water policy, Mr. Zhang Hongleung, AD, responsible for projects and development from DSD, and Mr. Lai Chak Ho, Chief Engineer, responsible for sewerage projects from the DSD. Over to your administration. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will start with a very brief background for this item. Probably members from the last term are well aware of this item. The need for sewer connection is beyond doubt. The last term government did come here to brief this panel and then went to the PWC, and then at the FC funds have been approved. However, when the project was tendered, the results came back and we found out that we had to incur more costs. There are two options before us. Either we come back here to get more funding from you, or we can have it retendered, or we can make adjustments to the project scope, that is to take something out of the original scope. We did consider the last option, and we found that there isn't any room for further reduction of the scope. As to whether there should be retendering, we did look at the outcome of the last tender exercise. Probably the costs will still be on the high side. So we are here to explain to you why we have opted for an increase in the project estimate so that we can complete the project ASAP. The DSD colleagues would like to walk you through the briefing, very brief, and just to remind you of the scope of the project. If you've got any questions, I'm sure the colleagues here will be able to answer all the questions. Yes, DSD, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members. I'm here to brief you on 382DS, sewerage at Clearwater Bay Road, Pik Shui Sun Tsuen and west of Sai Kung town. So sewers and also the sewage collection system will be built. In June this year, the FC already approved the upgrading of part of 272DS and part of 273DS to Cat A as 382DS. As the Undersecretary has said, this is to build sewers at Clearwater Bay, trunk sewers in Pik Shui Sun Tsuen, and then other projects as well. The total sum was $290.6 million. The purpose of our attendance today is to increase the approved project estimate, the APE, of 382DS by $68.4 million from $290.6 million to $359 million in MOD prices. At 11 unsewered areas, we'd like to have sewers measuring 12.8 kilometers. And then we'll be having train sewers along Clearwater Bay Road from Sunji Street to Razor Hill Road and around Pik Shui Sun Tsuen. Pik Shui Sun Tsuen is at a low level, so we need to build a sewage pumping station. And then in Pik Shui Sun Tsuen and Jiangnan Xu Park Set Wall, we need to lay twin rising mains because of the low levels there. So we need to pump up the sewage. You see that this is Sai Kung, the rural area, mainly uphill. There are 8 villages there. The brown shades indicate the places where we are going to put in place the sewerage. And then this shows what happens from Fei San, Kalu Peak to Big Oak Owl. So along Clearwater Bay Road, we are going to lay the trunks, the main sewers, and then next to it, Pik Shui Sun Tsuen, the orange one, there will be a SPS, and then some rural sewage collection system. As to the latest position, 382DS will be divided into 2 parts. First of all, the first one will be mainly civil engineering works covering all the sewers. As to the second contract, The second one is in relation to the EMM facilities within the sewage pumping station. We have just completed the tender assessment of the first contract. We found that the tender prices are higher than what we have expected. So we would like to have the approval of the FC so as to increase the APE, and then we can award the tender. As to why the APE will be higher than the tender prices, there are two reasons. First of all, in the rural areas of Sai Kung, it's a hilly landscape, and in fact, some of the places are at an altitude of 100 meters, and then the vehicular roads are rather narrow. So we found that the tenderers have come back with a higher factoring in for the risk. And then along Clearwater Bay Road, there are many restrictions concerning the excavation. As a result of the traffic factor, we can only dig up the road between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we may only be doing so during holidays. And therefore, we can only be carrying out works at 3 places simultaneously. Other departments and other public utilities will be counted towards the number of 3 in relation to the projects to be carried out at the same time. So the tender prices are higher, and we have to cater for the expected increase in the prices. So we believe that the cost needed will be higher than originally budgeted. That's all from me by word briefing. I hope you will support our request to increase the APE. As members, we also want to look at the enclosure to the paper. So enclosure 3 to the paper I referred to, there are 2 pages in the Chinese version, and we have a comparison between the approved project estimate and the latest project estimate. I open the floor to members for questions. I think we'll have 4 minutes each. Show of hands, please, if you would like to ask questions. 3 of you. 4. Probably I don't need to draw a line yet. First of all, Mr. Tony Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. For this sewerage, I don't actually have any queries. But then, concerning the project cost, I don't quite understand it because the increase is rather substantial. I don't know whether I've got it wrong or not, but I think the last time the estimate was made, it was still within this year, probably in March. Some justifications have been given as to the topography, location, etc. I think those factors must have already been taken into account when the estimate was drawn up, otherwise it would not be meaningful. So I want to know more about how the estimate was arrived at. Perhaps the DSD can explain this further. Yes, they tried to explain it a moment ago, but I don't think it is acceptable to me. I don't know who made the estimate, but perhaps someone more experienced should do the job. Otherwise, it's like plucking the figure from the thin air. It is an increase of 10 to 20 or more than 20% is unacceptable. No, in fact, it is quite substantial, from $81 million to $110 million. In the past, when we were dealing with similar projects in NT North, it wasn't that outrageous, but on this occasion, it is quite unacceptable. Madam Chair, we looked at their prices in 2011 and 2010. We had a number of contracts for reference, and they were in Yuen Long, and they were at more level land in Yuen Long.
But this time around, since the terrain is a little more hilly, and we have therefore to add some more money to it, we have also looked at maintenance contracts. And if the access is poor, we'll have to reserve about 8% for increasing the budget. And our expectation was a little different from the tenderers, who might think that the environment was a little more challenging than they expected. And that is why they assessed that the contract should be more expensive. Mr. Tony Chair, thank you. Of course, I understand that is a problem, but when making your forecast, the increase that you are asking for, if you look at Yuen Long Tai Po, but that is not a very good reference, isn't it? You have to look at Sai Kung. If you are the responsible officers, and when you did the design, you should have included all these factors, or else I think it's a little sloppy. The estimate was done in March, and now you are telling me that the increase on average was over 23%. Even if today we allow you the increase, would there still be a problem? Because if you look at the infrastructural part, the infrastructure itself does not see any increase, but only other parts of the contract. Maybe that is because the infrastructure itself is not the subject of the tender yet. The infrastructure part still fetches a price tag of $8.4 million, but the other parts have been greatly increased. So when you do your estimates, I hope the departments would take it more seriously. I work in the surveying field. I wouldn't accept such increase within such a short while. You're telling me it is because of the access, because of the terrain, and also the project time. Well, unless you tell me you didn't know about the restricted hours during the time you did the estimate. Would you like to have an answer? Well, Chairman, if you would allow them a little time, I think other members would also have an interest in what I am asking. We just don't understand why there has to be such an inflated cost. This is not a precedent, sorry, because I think this question might be of common interest to members, and that is why I would allow an answer. But later on, please don't blame me for giving Mr. Tony Jie the time and not others. Chairman, in recent years, we have not done similar village sewerage in Sai Kung. That is why we could only look at Yuen Long and Tai Po for reference. In drawing up the project estimate, we have already included an 8% contingency. However, tenderers are still quoting higher prices. We will learn from the experience, and if we have other projects in Sai Kung, we will do a better job. I think they have indirectly admitted a mistake. In other words, they have not factored in all the considerations when making the estimate. Any follow-up? Sorry, Chairman. I think I'm taking a little more time, but I think this is important. First of all, of course, we would like the relevant departments to make sure that there would not be an oligopoly or a restricted tender. Now, re-tendering may not be your best choice, but I'm also worried because we are talking about public money. If we do a sloppy job, and in fact, it's a big sum of money that we are talking about. Today, it seems the department has not been able to give me a satisfactory answer in that you are not convincing in your explanation. But I have already raised the issue. Well, he explained, but I am not convinced. Mr. Chung Kwok Pan. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like also to follow up on the price. In this slide, it says that the tendered prices were higher than the expectation by $59.7 million, and then price fluctuations $19.2 million, and contingency $10.5 million. That would be offset. Now, the estimation was done not so long ago, and yet you made a mistake. And a lot of other projects are being carried out. And we know there is a shortage of manpower. Now, each worker may fetch as much as over $1,000 a day. So would this estimate really be enough? And you also said that since in Clearwater Bay you have to do it in phases because you cannot close off the entire road. Now you have taken that into consideration. Then why is it that the contingency fee can be offset? And in para 11, near the end, then you also say that the increase in cost is partly offset by a sum of $10.5 million. But the last line also said we consider it necessary to retain $10 million as contingencies. What are you talking about, department? Well, you always inflate the prices. Why are you saying that some of the contingency sum can be offset? Well, since we have already got the bids in, now we are in the picture. We know the risk involved and we know the prices. Therefore, we believe part of the contingency cost can be offset. Undersecretary, we have already got the bids in and we think we can already be able to choose. We can already choose one company amongst the bidders. Well, but then the director has already told us that on the whole, the bids are higher than expected. When do you expect to go to the FC? We expect to go to FC in January. In between, they have to go to the PWSC for another discussion. Because my second question is, the OALA is now being procrastinated. Do you think you can jump the line, or else if you just follow the queue, it will be very late before you can get a chance for this to be discussed? I don't think this is a question for the Undersecretary. Only the CS4A can answer you. How many bids have you got, Undersecretary? 5. All 5 quoted a price higher than your estimation. Yes. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. A simple question. Between the two red lines, I can see Clearwater Bay Road, and along the stretch of the road there are villages. Does it mean that those villages are not included in the project? That is, in between the two lines, I can see that is still Clearwater Bay Road and there are villages on both sides of the road. Is it that those villages are included in other projects? Assistant Director, this time around, we only include villages that are shaded. 382 will be conducted in phases. I'd like to defer to Mr. Lai, my colleague, to tell you about the other villages. Along the Clearwater Bay Road, we are going to lay a trunk sewer. We are going to start from Shun Chi Court, that is the downstream, all the way to Razor Hill Road, which is the upstream. And near the downstream, we have Fei O Shan Road and also Long War Village. Those two are included in this project. As for the upstream side, well, that will be done at a later stage because the trunk sewer must be laid starting from the downstream side. And when we lay the trunk sewer near the upstream section, we can lay the village pipes for the downstream. So we do not have to complete the project in a long time. We are already talking about a timeline of 4 years. And if we include other villages as well, the project time will be very long. So we are going to split the project into 2 stages. And in fact, the upstream village pipes are already being designed. And we are already preparing for Gazetto. We expect Gazetto to take place in the coming few months, and therefore that will be taken care of in the second stage. Secondly, I'd like also to talk about the pricing of the project. The DSD said that you did not have a lot of similar projects in this district, and therefore you were not able to make an accurate estimate vis-a-vis the degree of difficulty of the project. Could I ask you, didn't you look at the actual site before you did the estimate? Did you not take a look at the topography or terrain before you try to estimate how much manpower, what kind of cost you might have to entail, DSD? Basically, we would make reference to recent similar projects to try to put a price tag on the project. We believe that will allow us to have more accuracy, and because that will also help us come to grips with recent price fluctuations. Well, NT North has an even terrain, but here it is quite hilly. Well, I think this is a little strange because as far as we know, the quantity surveyors would not just look at the market prices. They would have to know the number of days required and the number of workers required. Then you have a detailed calculation before you have the price estimate. So I still don't understand why your estimation is so different from the tender prices. AD? We understand it is a hilly terrain. We understand it is a main road, and therefore on Clearwater Bay Road there would be a lot of restrictions, and therefore bidders would factor in a higher risk factor. But as to our price estimate, maybe Mr. Lai can say more. Usually, public works estimates always take reference from previous similar projects. We would look at each item in those projects, say for example the laying of pipes. We would update the information every year to help our colleagues do the estimate, say for example sewers. If it is laid at a certain depth below road surface, then how much each meter of the pipe would cost. And we have taken reference from the prices, the actual tender prices for laying village pipes in 2009 to 2011. But if we cannot find such items of work in similar contracts, then we, as you said, we would look at the cost for manpower, materials, and machinery. But we don't necessarily do it for every item. But in recent years, we did not have any sewer laying project in Sai Kung. And Sai Kung is unique in that the villages are on the hills. They are like terraced in their configuration. So even if we have already taken reference from actual recent projects, we have already included an 8% contingency. But the contractors tendering for the project may think that the degree of difficulty and risk is higher than what we think, and that is why they have put in a bigger contingency. And also, as you know, we can only work from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. from Monday to Friday, and if there is a public holiday on these days, we cannot work. And in fact, we have to hoard up the road surface after 4 p.m. or before 10 a.m. so that traffic can still go through Clearwater Bay Road, and that is why the tender prices are so much higher. Mr. Kenneth Chan, I'd also like to ask about the price estimate. Traffic and terrain should not have changed so much in just a matter of months, but I understand that the DSD has tried its best, and we do understand it. But Chairman, if they do a better estimate, however, the tender prices might still be high, and I understand it's very difficult to do estimates. But then there is another question. When we are talking about the laying of pipes for gathering sewage from villages, as far as I know, they are using manholes. If they have to connect to these sewers, the fee is to be provided or shouldered by the owner or the tenant, in other words, by private individuals. Now, have you done an estimate as to how much money the private villages would still have to fork out before they can connect to the public sewers? Would owners and tenants still flout their responsibility even if you have laid all the trunk sewers, or they may want to drag their feet so that their own sewage will not be connected to the public sewers?
So I want to know whether the utilization will be as expected. Will it be a far cry from our expectation? Well, in fact, in the past, we had sewerage projects in village houses. We approved the funding, and money has been expended. So I think the DSD has to give us information. Now, understand that the public sewers will only be passing in front of the door of a village house, and the owners will still have to dip into the pockets to get connected with the public sewerage system. So please, before submission to the FC, a paper to us so that whether there is any improvement. There is a connection with the public sewers. Whenever we carry out a project, there will be adequate public consultation. We approached the village heads, the road committees, etc. It's only when we have their overall support will we embark on the sewerage project. In every district, after we have completed the sewerage project, we will notify the EPD. The EPD would then notify individual owners, requesting them to carry out the connection. Well, as far as we understand, the connection rate is on the high side, approximately 90%. And in Sai Kung, usually the average is 97%, quite high. If I may also ask a follow-up question, well, in fact, we can have some supplementary information here. Ms. Yun, Mr. Zhang has already said that past experience showed that the connection rate would be high, more than 90%. Our experience is that throughout the territory, the average has been 80%. As it has been explained, we try to get the local support before we embark on the job, like the alignment as well as the connection points, so that we can have consensus in advance instead of having lack of cooperation from individual owners. If they don't cooperate, we will further liaise with them, and in extreme cases, we can invoke the relevant ordinance to take action. How much time do we each have? 4 minutes. Whether it's 80% or 90%, there will still be individual owners who fail to connect with the public sewers. Instead of just charging for the sewage being discharged, I want to know whether there are other penalties as well. From a DSD, a brief reply, please, or would it be Ms. Yun? Thank you for this question. Well, according to our water pollution control ordinance, whenever there is a public sewer, then the owner has the responsibility to get connected, except in very unusual circumstances, like the house being surrounded by other houses, or there are other objective factors preventing him from doing so. We may not actually go to the last resort and issue a summons against the owner, but probably we can issue an advisory letter so as to facilitate follow-up action. Mr. Chung Shikan, if you don't deduct the contingency fee by $10 million, then your mismatch would have been over 30%. So you have underestimated by over 30%. Is it outrageous? So my questions are, did the DSD always estimate wrongly the cost, and do have measures in place to make sure that you don't have the same blunder again? And even if you are not having an accurate estimate, you won't be off the mark by so much. And thirdly, I want to know whether there would be any delays to the project. And fourthly, in the course of it, I want to know if there are many factors that are beyond your knowledge, and then later on in the middle of it, you try to ask us to give you more money. would you be asking for supplementary provision, DSD? Thank you, Madam Chair. On this occasion, the tender prices have exceeded our estimate. If the FC gives approval, we can only start work in January, so about 5 months behind schedule. The tender prices have come back. We are therefore confident that we can control the cost. And in the construction period, we will keep it in view closely. And we will exercise strict control on the expenditure, hoping that the construction cost or the project cost will be within our budget. No, you haven't answered our questions. Do you have any measures to improve your estimate so that it won't be off the mark, or at least not by so much? You can't simply admit your mistake of underestimating by 30%. You need to learn a lesson from it. You have to tell us how you can ensure us that you will be having more accurate estimates next time. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Deputy Chairman. Well, for the tender prices that we have received, on the basis of this, in the future, whenever we have projects in Sai Kung, for example, we will make reference to such tender prices and will have a more detailed breakdown in the costs. And when we have something similar, we can make reference to this piece of information. And we will also take into account the price indices. And we hope that the estimate will be nearer the reality. I think the Undersecretary has to find ways to exercise control so that the departments won't commit similar mistakes again. I think they're simply saying that they will use the same methodology. In other words, it is likely to give rise to mistakes again. Do you have something else to correct the mistake? I think you need to find a way. You can't simply say that you will be more hardworking, you will be more careful in the calculations. Undersecretary, indeed, we tried to understand the problem. The difference is rather substantial, and we have to come back to the LegCo to ask for more money. This isn't something we want to see happen. But then for the DSD, I think their previous record was rather good in terms of the accuracy. So maybe on this occasion, there are some isolated factors that have caused the exceptional difference. I don't think that it is commonly seen in the DSD, but probably we'll learn from this experience. As Mr. Chung has said, maybe the labor cost is going up, and then the topography there is quite difficult, and we might have underestimated the situation. I'm sure in future colleagues will be more careful. All right, in this case, we can move on to the next item on the agenda, extension of the Cleaner Production Partnership Program. So paper CB bracket 1, 191/12-13 and the Secretariat have prepared a background brief for us. Paper 191/12-13 4. We have received a submission as well. And Ms. Christine Low will stay for this item. And then Mr. Andrew Lai, Deputy Director of EP, Ms. Mary Zhang, Assistant Director EPD, and Mr. Raymond Wong, Senior Environmental Protection Officer from the EPD. He is also responsible for cross-boundary and international, like Ms. Zhang. So it's cross-boundary, not international. Those who would like to ask questions, please raise our hands because we need to be very conscious of the time management today. Hold your hand up to allow the clerk to jot down your names. 6 members would like to ask questions. I'll draw a line here. I must apologize because we have 2 other items today. Mr. Chen Qing Ko, Helena Wong, Dennis Kwok, Sin Chung Kai, and Zhong Guok Wan. Undersecretary, please. I like this item very much personally because in year 2008, of course, at that time, I haven't joined the government, but I did pay attention to this, and we came to the LegCo. Well, going back to the background, we wondered if the Hong Kong government could come up with a sum of money, and then we can mobilize the Hong Kong businessmen having factories in Pearl River Delta region to engage in cleaner production. 5 years have passed, and I think this is working. We spent about $90 million, and if you go to paragraphs 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you see how much we have achieved. In fact, many people did take part in the program, and we give you the figures about individuals as well as enterprises joining the program. The number is quite encouraging. 151 demonstration projects have been included, and there were others who joined other parts of the program, and they were able to deliver, and we could take actual measurements of their achievements. In other words, for the past 5 years in Guangdong, we were able to promote the idea that is cleaner production is feasible and it is effective. And for our demonstration projects as well as other projects, well, in Guangdong, it has become, they have acknowledged that they are working, and they can reduce the production cost. So on this occasion, we come back to report to you about the outcome. And secondly, we want to extend the program by 2 years. So we'd like to ask for $50 million more so that in the coming 2 years, we can further promote the idea of cleaner production. Our colleagues can give you a more detailed account as to how we're going to spend the $50 million. There will be expansion in certain parts of the program. Mr. Lai, please. Well, this is built on what we have done for the past 5 years, and we have also taken into account the feedback of the users as well as other stakeholders. Please take a look at paragraphs 12 to 16, which gives you an idea about the adjustments. First of all, we have 4 major elements under the program, like promotion, on-site assessment, verification service, and demonstration projects. We are going to increase the amount of subsidies to be given, like technical promotion or technology promotion. We would like to organize around 60 to 80 activities to promote cleaner production. At the same time, for on-site assessment, we would like to cover 250 factories, and for each on-site improvement assessment, instead of subsidizing $15,000, we want to raise it to $25,000. Demonstration projects, that's most important. When businessmen see it with their own eyes, it will be most effective. There will be about 90 such projects, and then the funding ceiling will be raised from $160,000 to $300,000 per project. And then, currently in Guangdong province, we cover 9 cities. And in fact, many factories in PRD have been relocated further north, though still within the boundary of Guangdong province. So we hope that the new program will cover about 20 cities in the entirety of Guangdong. And then, in other words, all the businessmen in Guangdong province can apply for this. In the past, we focused on industrial production. We have received feedback, and in fact, in Hong Kong, we don't have much local industries. But when it comes to service industries like vehicle repair, VOC emission as well as other pollutant emission is still serious. So if we allow the vehicular repair workshops to join, it will also assist in our local improvement measures concerning pollution.
I'll stop here. I'd like to mention one rule of procedure, and that is if members have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in these items under discussion, please act according to ROP 83A and declare or disclose the nature of such interest before speaking. And also, ROP 84 states that there are stipulations with regard to voting when you have a direct pecuniary interest. If you operate a factory on the mainland, please so declare it. Mr. Chen Kin-po. Thank you, Chairman. This CPPP is just for a short time, and after extending it for 2 years, will you revisit the project to see whether you'd like to extend it indefinitely, or would you consider having a more sustainable project or turn this into a permanent standing project? And also, do you have concrete measures to boost it up so that it can be a sustainable project? In the long term, I don't think the administration should be subsidizing factory operators in their clean production. And have you looked at the impact on operators if you reduce your subsidy? And also, if you no longer subsidize clean production, how many factory operators will stop using clean production methods? And also, how can you assist these people in going on to making their own investment in CP? In fact, you can reduce emission and pollution, and also you can reduce the production cost by $700 million every year. So it's clear that this is a very successful project. Can you do more publicity to allow them to understand that actually this clean production concept also benefits them? I'm sure if you can promote the concept, they will like to do it on their own, and they will do it on a bigger scale so you can achieve your original purpose. 4 minutes each. Undersecretary. Just now, Mr. Chan has put his finger on all the questions that we are pondering about this project. We'd like to extend it for 2 years because we can see good results. And as Mr. Chan said, with regard to public education and also publicity, that is an important consideration. And also, after 2 years, I'm also thinking whether this kind of project can somehow evolve. Now that we are subsidizing them, but we are not talking about a big subsidy. And enterprises are now happy to spend the rest of the money. You must understand that we are only giving them a very small subsidy, and yet we have been able to stimulate them into thinking what they have to do in order to reduce emission and pollution, and they have to actually fork out a lot of money, like the demonstration projects. You can look at the figures, and in fact our subsidy is only of a very small amount. You can say that when the Hong Kong government pays $1, they actually spend much more. And that is why we think the project is effective. Now, after the next 2 years, in fact, I am interested in looking deeper into this. In terms of clean production, what can we do more? What more can we do, like in Hong Kong or on the mainland? We have talked about air pollution many times at this panel. Apart from emissions in Hong Kong, we understand, in fact, the majority of the emissions have come from the Pearl River Delta. We are now promoting the adoption of CP by Hong Kong businessmen in Guangdong. And in fact, in Guangdong now, they also have this kind of partnership scheme. The two taken together is actually viewed in a very good light because that represents cooperation between Guangdong and Hong Kong. And later on in Guangdong, if we can have further cooperation to reduce emission and pollution by a wider margin, this belongs to the next stage. If we can figure out what can be done, it can actually form the basis for very concrete cooperation. Ms. Helena Wong, I am going to ask a related question. I'm talking about sustainability. The first project was for 5 years. Now you'd like to extend it for 2 years. Why are you asking for 2 years only? Why not 5 years? What do you expect to see after 2 years? Would you come back after 2 years to say you need another 5 years in order to tie in with the 13th 5-year program, so that somehow it has changed its nature into a permanent program? If you look at the Federation of Hong Kong Industries letter, the fourth point is that within the enterprises, there must be permanent and sustainable implementation so that you can really achieve clean production. So is it that factories already have this expectation that you would continue to work side by side with them? Could I know whether after 2 years you are going to extend it by another 5 years, or if you are going to withdraw your part after 2 years, then you have to state clearly what measures there will be in order to continue to support or help Hong Kong businessmen operating in Guangdong so that they can really stand on their feet 2 years down the road. But I cannot see such information in the paper. You say there would be 60 to 80 more talks. How are they different from the talks you have already organized? Is it that you're going to reach out to more factories, or is it that the talks would cover different content? There would be 90 more demonstration projects, you said. How are they different from the 151 already conducted in the last 5 years? Are they going to be duplications, or is it that they are of different nature, or is it because there is new technology that you want to run them again? And also, why is it that the support will jump from 160,000 to 300,000 by 88%? Why? And also, sorry, Miss Helena Wong, would you like to have answers? Well, I understand that Hong Kong-operated factories are closing down quick in Guangdong. I'd like to know how many factories that have received your help are still operating, and what is your projection in the future? In other words, how many factories that would accept your help and yet fold up very soon? Undersecretary, only 4 minutes for each member, so please be quick. I will try, but my colleagues can actually supplement later. We must understand that factories operated by Hong Kong businesses are still in the region of 50 odd. So in the first round, we have not been able to reach out to a lot of factories. So if we want to continue to give them help, I think there is still room for more government investment. Secondly, since there are so many Hong Kong-operated factories, I think it is a good idea for us to do more talks and seminars. You can imagine if taxpayers fork out the money, and if we can really achieve certain results in the mainland, I think it helps a lot if we allow industries to be cleaner in their production. And if you members are interested, we can go there for a site visit. And also to answer a question by 2 other members, and what will become of this project later on. Since it is performing extremely well, we don't want to stop it now. And why is it that the proposed demonstration projects subsidy will go up from 160,000 to 300,000? This is because we want to expand the scope of each project. We want them to be demonstrations. If demonstrations are done well, then other factories can visit that demonstration project. And we found that this was very effective in stimulating further investment by other factories. And as to whether factories that we have supported have wound up in recent years, as far as I know, there is none, but I don't know whether there is another record that says yes. Sorry, time is up. Dr. Kenneth Chan, I would like to seek some figures from the officials. In the annex, with regard to the expected funding for the extension program, you are getting $50 million, and 19% has to do with program management and technical support, and over half has to do with demonstration projects 4% has to do with verification, and 12.5% on on-site improvement assessments, and 10.4% on technology promotion. I'd like to ask you whether this is similar to the first 5 years. In other words, program management and technical support. Did that take up a similar percentage? Or would you not think that this kind of administrative expenditure is a little high, so that the efficiency of the project should be recalculated? Secondly, the Undersecretary said that if taxpayers pay $1, factory operators pay more. Well, I think that should be the case. But then, in this project, you are not telling us about a matching kind of arrangement, like in universities and other research organizations. If there is subsidy of $1, the other organization should also fork out $1. If I may refer to paragraph 29 of the paper, it says that when we provide $50 million, well, the estimate is not 1-to-1 as the Secretary said. In fact, participating factories will only contribute around $33 million, while the government gives $50 million. So it's not a 1-to-1 kind of arrangement. 2 questions, please. Undersecretary. And maybe I can take these 2 questions by Dr. Kenneth Chan. About the $50 million expenditure. This time around, about 10 million, which is 19 to 20%, is going to be given to Hong Kong Productivity Center as the implementation organization. This includes promotion by Hong Kong PC, assessment done by Hong Kong PC, and also monitoring of the progress of work. This will take up about 19% of the next 2 years. Compared to the first 5 years, it was actually 28%, and this time around it has actually come down. We think this is reasonable because we have already got 5 years experience, and the Hong Kong PC should be able to do this in a more cost-effective manner so that it can regulate or supervise the project in a more efficient manner, and that is why we have already suppressed the administrative fee. As for the matching of funds, yes, there is this matching element. I can give you an example. The on-site assessment. Right now, the subsidy is 15,000. In the extension program, we like to enhance it to 25,000. Now the government pays 15,000 and the operator has to fork out 15,000 as well. But whatever is above 15,000, well, that will come from the factory operator. And so we can guarantee that the administration or government would only pay up to half of the project. If there is anything that is above and beyond it, then the factory operator would have to foot the bill. And then demonstration project. Actually, the operator will also have to fork out 160,000 when it asks for 160,000 from the government. The new project will see a subsidy of 300,000. But in fact, in demonstration projects, we have always seen that the factory operators would have to pay a lot more. Well, still, the administrative fee is too high. Even if it has come down from 28% to 19%, I think you can talk to the Hong Kong Productivity Council again. I'd like to remind members who have just joined us, because of time constraint, I have already drawn a line since we have 2 other items and we have to control the time. Mr. Dennis Kwok. Last time when I met with the Secretary, we mentioned air pollution, and especially the Guangdong Provincial Province government, and whether they could reach the target and what have they done by way of reduction of emission. If I remember correctly, the Secretary said that it did not have updated information. In other words, the Guangdong Provincial Government still has not given us the latest information. The Undersecretary is nodding. If the Guangdong Provincial Government has given you the most updated information, can you not please also let us have a copy?
And then what about on this side? We in Hong Kong, what can we do? I think we can only provide some assistance to the Guangdong side. And what is important is for the Guangdong province to implement and enforce the emission reduction targets, and they should also look at their particulate emissions. Undersecretary, Madam Chair, there is this agreement between Hong Kong and Guangdong. Last Friday, we made an announcement in relation to the fact that Hong Kong achieved the targets. In Guangdong, they could not achieve the targets covering VOC. It's better not for me to repeat the details because we already submitted a paper to the LegCo last Friday. Next time, if you want to talk more about air pollution, I can certainly go into the details. Now, in the case of Guangdong, I'm quite familiar with the research work as well as the regional control. I think Guangdong has been a pace setter in relation to the regulatory controls among the various provinces in China. For VOC, I think Guangdong hasn't really exerted enough efforts. I think at the national level, at the 11th five-year plan, they were focusing on the SO2. Now they are talking about nitrogen. So perhaps next time they will do more in the area of VOCs. Hong Kong and Guangdong have an agreement. So in terms of VOC reduction, Guangdong is already ahead of many other provinces. Last Friday, Guangdong told us that they were quite concerned about the fact that they couldn't meet the VOC reduction targets. So for Guangdong, I think they have the determination to tackle the problem. And then for Guangdong, they would be working on it itself. And for Hong Kong, I think this cleaner production partnership program is important. What we can do in Guangdong cannot be done directly. I think we need to work through certain organizations. As to what we're going to do, I think we work via the Hong Kong businessmen. We have got 50,000 factories funded by Hong Kong Capital. So through this program, we are able to find a practical way. 5 years ago, someone asked if we give the other side a sum of money, would there be assurance that there will be deliverables? I think for this idea, it is quite innovative at a global level. One government would offer a sum of money, and this will result in emission reduction in another place. And don't underestimate the potential of this program. So just allow me to add a word here. We are able to identify this potential. If at the regional level we can have emission reduction in Guangdong, it will be very effective in improving the air quality. Sin Chung Kai, you said that there were 50,000 factories. And in the paper it says that 1,260 enterprises benefited. So it's fine with me for you to extend the program for 2 years. And then others can also ride on the successful projects. What I suggest is that every enterprise has its own responsibility to do the job properly, and they must also meet the Guangdong requirements concerning emission reduction. If we have got anything which is innovative, like the demonstration projects, then only such projects will be worthy of our support. If you are talking about something innovative and carries a risk, if somebody is willing to take up the risk, and if the government is willing to share the risk, because the trial project may not always succeed. So if you ask me, in the future, if you vet the applications, you should apply a more vigorous yardstick. The project must have a demonstration value and it has an innovative element before you grant the approval. As Mr. Chen Qinpo has said, perhaps time has come for them to fund their own projects. Mr. Lai. Thank you, Mr. Sin, for your question. I think we have the same understanding. As the Undersecretary has said, Hong Kong has got over 50,000 factories in Guangdong. It's impossible for us to subsidize their cleaner production, each and every of them. And in fact, it is the responsibility of the businessmen themselves. The crux of the matter is that with advancement of technology, there will be new environmental technologies emerging all the time. So for each industry, we would be interested in the visionary cleaner production methods so that the enterprises will be willing to take up something innovative. So we are interested in the advanced technologies, and usually we will approve 2 of them in each sector. For other things, we won't give approval. Say, for example, in Guangdong, we have a factory telling us that they would like to replace their lighting with more energy-saving lighting. We won't grant it approval because this will be regarded as something that should be applied extensively. We want something more advanced, and we get Hong Kong businessmen to carry out the pilot project so that there's a demonstration value. It can be proved that there is savings, and then through seminars, this message will be sent out to the peers in the same sector. And that's why every year we need to arrange for new seminars so that we can share the information with the relevant enterprises in relation to the demonstration projects. First of all, Madam Chair, I need to declare that I have factories in Guangdong, but I didn't apply for it. But then my constituents had applied for the funding, and they found it useful. I'm also on the board of the manufacturers. So I need to declare interest. It is a very useful program. A lot of the enterprises in the mainland are SMEs. At first, they didn't know much about this project, so I think on this occasion, the government subsidies as well as the assistance given by the Hong Kong PC would enable the SMEs to know more about the cleaner production technologies. And via this program, many SMEs are able to upgrade the level of their production. I have a few questions to ask. First of all, as the Undersecretary has said, we should have more cooperation with the Guangdong government. I understand that the Guangdong government has put up much more money than the Hong Kong government in relation to this point. So my question is, how can we better coordinate so that we can make good use of the money and cover a larger area? Now you're talking about an extension of 2 years, $50 million. The Undersecretary told us that the scope will be extended from 9 cities to the entirety of Guangdong province. It will be covering a much larger area. $50 million, 2 years more, I don't think it is adequate. But of course, we from the industry has an interest here. We would of course like to have more money. But before that can happen, I just wonder if you can talk to the Guangdong government. They are spending hundreds of millions of dollars. So perhaps you should talk to the Guangdong government so that you can maximize the money, and then we maximize the use of the money. Now you are subsidizing the consultants, you are advising the businessmen how to do it better, but then the factories have to come up with a large sum of money for the purpose of investment. But I'm sure the return is good. However, perhaps the government can talk to the financial institutions, like whether there would be any concessionary loans for enterprises to upgrade their facilities. They may need some help from the government by talking to the banks and try to come up with loans to help the SMEs. Undersecretary, I hope we can take it in this way. Just now, many members ask questions which are close to the hearts of many citizens. We spend the money. We want to know whether this is a value for money and whether it is accountable. It has been going on for 5 years. We believe that we're able to achieve the objectives. In the next 2 years, we just want to get a bit more money for 2 more years. If I try to expend it too much, we may not be able to get your approval. And I hope that you can give us a bit more time. 2 years will soon pass. Starting from 2013 onwards, I would like to take a good look of it together with the Guangdong authorities. As Mr. Chung has already said, Guangdong government has come up with an even larger sum. So we have to find out where our interest lies. We want to help the Hong Kong businessmen, but we also want to see a reduction in the emission, and this will improve the air quality of Hong Kong and reduce the level of pollutants. This is a direct benefit to the people of Hong Kong. I want to know more, and then when I have the opportunity to come back to you, then we hope that we can try to develop a new program under the 13th five-year plan framework. So if we want to have better liaison with the Guangdong authorities, we need a bit more time. So I can't really give you a concrete reply. The 5-year program has just been completed, and I hope that you will give us another year's time so that we can sort of summarize the details, and then we can come back with a general framework. Sorry about that. I've already said that we had drawn a line. So just want to consult your views whether this panel will recommend this paper to the FC or not. So any objection to our recommendation to the FC? If not, then we support the referral of this paper to the FC. And please also provide the supplementary information to us concerning the sewerage in Sai Kung. We will also recommend the paper to the PwC. All right? Thank you. Next, eco-tourism. Well, we haven't got a paper for this item. The attending officials will be walking us through the PowerPoint presentation on the site. So I'll give the floor to the officials responsible for this item. The Undersecretary will stay, and then he will be accompanied by Mr. Au. Assistant Director from the EPD, and Edmund Lam from AFCD, and Mr. Shek also from AFCD, who will walk us through the paper. Mr. Au? Or rather, Mr. Lam. Mr. Lam, please. Well, before we start the briefing, I would like to thank you for showing your concern. I think probably this is the first time you have such a discussion. My colleagues have come up with a nicely put together PowerPoint presentation. I hope there's power, there are points. We'll be keeping the briefing brief concerning the sustainable ecotourism. I think you know that Hong Kong is a small place, but still we have got rich natural resources. We have got hilly places, we have got freshwater bodies, we have got the marine habitat, we have got a rich variety of species. Hong Kong is a small place, quite a lot of area is being protected by laws. We have 24 country parks, some special areas, 4 marine parks, and 3 restricted areas for the protection of special species. In 2010, we set up the Hong Kong Geo Park so as to protect the special geological landscape. And then through the administrative arrangements of the EPD, we have 67 sites of special scientific interests.
This is a map to let you know the distribution of our marine parks, marine reserves, and country parks. Those are at places with a high altitude, and they are mostly in the countryside. Within the protected areas, we can see a lot of habitats, streams, vegetated areas, reservoirs. In fact, most of the catchment areas of reservoirs are covered by law. And you can see different species. You have amphibians, mammals, and insects. Most of them are in the protected areas. Nature conservation areas do a lot for nature conservation in Hong Kong. Now, of course, we like to protect the natural environment. We do education. We also provide holiday-making spots for Hong Kong people and also for tourists. And after 2003, after the SARS epidemic, many people would like to do jogging and trail walking in the countryside. And of course, since there is such rich natural resource, they are good places for doing scientific research. This time around, we like to concentrate on ecotourism and how that relates to the natural environment. In Hong Kong, very often people take ecotourism tours, but then in fact they are just consumption-led, and they would go to the hot spots most of the time. And I must say that very often they do not make a lot of mention of the ecology. Sometimes there can be negative effects as well. We have heard, and as you have seen from newspapers, some natural habitat has been destroyed, and sometimes the holidaymakers may not really show a lot of compassion towards wild animals, and they may catch them. And in fact, they also create pollution, and therefore the ecology and habitat are suffering. And in the end, the biodiversity can be reduced, and the entire society may have to pay the price. However, on the other hand, there are also benefits from ecotourism, because more people will be able to enjoy the natural environment, and they will know that in fact Hong Kong can be so beautiful. And also the public will be more interested and will be more passionate about nature conservation, because if you haven't seen it for yourself, you don't know why we have to protect nature. And also through these activities, we can get the support of more people in society in terms of nature conservation. Like in Mai Po, we have bird watching competitions every year, and people are getting interested. Of course, in the end, we can also create jobs. We are talking about supporting sustainable tourism and tourism that is nature-based. What do we mean by this? We have to concentrate on understanding nature. We really have to go to places where people can experience nature. We should not just pass on the side. And also, with better arrangement, we should try not to destroy the natural environment. For example, we should not allow thousands of people to go to a place at the same time, because that may be beyond the tourism loading of a place. And also, we must tell people why we want to protect that area and what is to be protected. And also, this will bring about economic benefit to the people living around those areas. In fact, to do this, we must manage the natural environment by doing our part. First of all, we must have regular patrol. We must implement the law in order to protect the natural environment, to make sure that it will not be destroyed by undesirable behavior. And also in terms of hill fire, we must be careful in collecting rubbish, and we must prevent hill fires. The AFCD would collect over or almost 3,000 tons of rubbish from our country parks every year. And also, even in country parks, we have to lay power or water pipes, and also we have to repair the slopes. Now, we have to manage these projects, even if they are inevitable, and they must not be destructive to the natural environment. Also, we can provide recreational facilities for holidaymakers and tourists so that they will not create their own facilities, because that may destroy the natural environment. At the same time, we have to do our nature conservation work. We have to put vegetation on the ground. We have to enhance the ecology and habitats. We also have to do more education. Over 280,000, in fact, almost 300,000 primary school students take part in our educational activities. We also have to do a biodiversity baseline study to see whether we have done a good job for nature. And with regard to nature-based tourism, we like to encourage certain directions that can be taken. For example, hiking. Together with the Hong Kong Tourism Board, we are having this kind of full contact with nature. We have done that for 3 weeks already. Local people and tourism people can join. And also we have opened up many leisure walking trails. Together with RTHK, on Friday afternoons, we are launching promotion programs so that families can have leisure walks in our country parks. And then picnics. We provide such picnic spots. Also, we like to encourage photography, because we like people to take away memories from the country parks. You should take this home. And also, we can have fitness training in our country parks. We can have morning exercise sites in country parks. And of course, we can have field trips. We encourage that a lot. In the past 10 years, the tourism numbers have grown gradually from 11 million in 2002 to 2009, when the Geopark was opened. We added another million, and then also after SARS we added more than 2 million. But we hope the numbers can be contained in a way so that we can protect the environment. Well, even if we can control the numbers, we are still talking about like 13 million people visiting our natural environment. So we have to have certain restrictions. For example, access restriction. We are talking about Maipo, and also places where the sea turtles would lay their eggs. And sometimes we have to restrict certain activities. In marine parks, we would like to reduce the fishing activity. So we actually acquire or ask people to acquire a license first, and also restriction of traffic, including vehicles and vessels. And in ecologically sensitive areas, we actually do not provide any access by vehicle or people, so that there will not be intervention by humans. By having such restrictions, we will divert tourists to places where the tourism loading can be higher. And we have 4 long-distance leisure walking or hiking trails, so that we can direct tourists to places which are more easily managed. We would include more signage. We provide better facilities. We also provide information on the internet, so that the tourists and holidaymakers can be directed to our trails network. And also, there are other facilities for people who would like to see a lot within a short time, like the Lions Nature Education Center. We entertain about 400,000 people every year. And in different country parks, you have the visitor centers. We provide basic information about country parks there, and also we have the Tai Po Ao Nature study center or reserve, so you can have concentrated information. And also Hong Kong Wetland Park, over 500,000 tourists every year. And also recently we opened the Woodside Biodiversity Education Center. Many people visit the center on holidays and on Sundays. We must not forget Ong Ping, where there is a nature center. People who go to Lantau can go to this nature center by taking Ong Ping 360. We've got the facilities, and we like to provide some software to enhance the public's awareness. So we have codes and guidelines. We also conduct public talks so people understand what we are doing. And also we have got certain charters for the tourists. We have countryside code, we have marine code, dolphin watching code, etc. And also, even when you want to watch fireflies, we like you to operate by a code. So when you enjoy nature, you can also protect and love nature. And also, we have these notice boards. We used to use stainless steel, but recently we are including photographs and pictures. And also, there is English and Chinese in order to arouse the interest of tourists so they understand the nature better. At the same time, we also provide information on the different trails, like the Pik Trail, Lai Ji Wo Trail, and Sai Kung Trail, etc. Sometimes people don't want to think too much before they choose a trail, so these are ready-made. These are like packaged trails for them. And also we provide some educational information. We have got all these family trails and nature trails so as to help them understand nature. And we have published over 150 books in the past 10 years. We have included scenery, flora and fauna, particular pictures on animals, and also trails, humanities and history, outdoor activities, geography, and even children's books. This is to cater to the different groups of tourists we have. Of course, we have not forgotten our websites. We operate in Chinese and English, and also in recent times we have got apps on the wetland park, the geo park, our trails, and also tree walks. Recently, in terms of tree walks, we have just released an app for planting trees. We are trying it out to see how the public would react to it. In terms of training, we also like to train the public. Through our volunteers scheme, we are recruiting people who are interested in nature conservation to take part in our different schemes to act as ambassadors or volunteers, and they can help us transmit this concept. In our wetland park, we have 2,000 such volunteers, and in country parks, about 1,000. In marine parks, we'd like university students to become our ambassadors. As for the Friends of the Country Park, these people are people who love to take leisure walks, and we'd like them to help us increase the awareness for nature. But then we also have to continue to watch the change in our nature environment, like the ecology monitoring and also coral reefs general study, because we like to know whether the number of tourists are doing anything to our corals, and in the end we have to implement the law. We have the country park ordinance to take care of country parks, and also in marine parks and marine reserves we do regular patrol so as to prevent people engaging in illegal acts. We may even prosecute people who destroy the natural environment, and these are the prosecution figures. Usually it is from 800 to 1,000 every year. We don't want to emphasize prosecution too much, but then of course we cannot let go of this important tool. We also need a lot of support, because the government alone cannot do nature conservation too well, and that is why we always liaise with people in society. We like to have more people support us in our nature conservation work. And first of all, these are the visitors to our parks, and secondly, the community groups, and then green groups. the business sector. It can support our activities, and also the academic sector, which can also help us do publicity. And in fact, we liaise with international organizations, for example, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the World Commission on Protected Areas, and even the World Tourism Organization.
We have been in close liaison with such organizations, and we want to strike a balance here. Looking ahead, we hope that we can continue to support the sustainable eco-tourism, and we will be managing and protecting the precious natural environment of Hong Kong, and will be keeping a close relationship with the tourism sector, local people, and the visitors. We have established the Hong Kong Wetland Park and the Hong Kong Geo Park, and we hope that we are going down a direction where we'll see more work being done. Of course, we won't forget our partner, our tourism industry. We hope that they will recognize and agree with us on the importance of nature conservation. Will encourage the visitors to have good conduct, and would like to ease the negative impact of tourism on the natural environment of Hong Kong. And we hope that the tourism industry will encourage their employees to follow the codes and guidelines for nature conservation. And we have been providing training for them, and for our fishermen, we have also been training them up so that they can become eco-tour guides. We have trained over 200 such local fishermen, and we have also worked with NGOs to run a number of programs concerning the recognized or accredited guides for the Geo Park. We have got 4 such accredited guides for the Geo Park, and another 40 who have been recommended, and they have completed the training and they are practicing. And we hope that such work would continue so that the natural environment of Hong Kong as well as our tourism activities will be given a very sound basis. That's all from me, Madam Chair, concerning eco-tourism. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions from you. Well, for this PowerPoint, as well as what Mr. Lam has said, in particular the figures, I hope that you can provide a paper. We're supposed to end by 4:20. So, show of hands, please, so that I know who among you would like to ask questions. Hold your hand up. Hold your hand up. 8 of you would like to ask questions. I may extend the meeting time by 15 minutes, but then 8 members are asking questions, so I'll be rather strict about the time limit, 4 minutes each. I appeal to you for your cooperation. Please stop when your time is up. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just now, the Bureau has presented a PowerPoint to us. I think it seems that it is good, but then there is something imminent that is at Long May Beach. At Long May, it will become a bathing beach instead of the current use as a eco-tourism spot. So I want to know whether this matter has been given the due recognition by the administration. And then for Long May, now it is part of Tai Po, and it is part of the Tin Kok Plus. I want to point out that it is a good starting point for local eco-tourism. It will also be the focal point to develop local eco-tourism. I know that you have got money to build the ancillary facilities for the bathing beach, but in fact, I think you can have an integrated area with the hilly areas, the water, the mud flat, etc., so that it will be something very unique instead of just getting another beach in Hong Kong. So, Undersecretary, are you going to work more so that Long May can become part of the ecotourism in Hong Kong instead of being turned into a bathing beach? Thank you. We'll come back on Friday to have a dedicated discussion on Long May. If it is acceptable to you, I would prefer not to say more on this because I haven't got anything new to say now. For Tin Kok Plus, it is exactly what we want to do. Development, protection of the natural environment. We hope that we can have something new by having tourism and natural conservation or nature conservation. I would rather have the dedicated discussion on Friday. Looking ahead, we really hope that what we showed you in the PowerPoint can be applied throughout Hong Kong. You wondered how much weight we gave to Long May. Well, just now we showed you a table. In fact, the number is increasing. That is the number of visitors going to the countryside. It sends out this message. The people of Hong Kong are more and more interested in nature. In other words, the Hong Kong government can never afford to forget the importance of nature. Sometimes there may be this problem. I know you want to continue to discuss this matter. That is the conflict between development and conservation, whether you want to have a balance or we want to be lopsided and making choices in different scenarios. It depends on the location and it depends on the circumstances. But then for the balance, I think it is something that the entire community has to discuss. Last year, we announced that we joined the Convention on Biodiversity. There is this requirement on us, that is the government must have extensive consultation and in a disciplined way, in a systematical way, to balance the two factors. In January, we're going to talk to the stakeholders as well as the green groups. I'm sure we'll come back to this panel to brief you on this matter. So it's a matter of looking forward to rescue certain things, so to speak, but looking back sometimes is difficult. Fernando Zhang, the Undersecretary, said that she would rather not talk about Long May, but then on Friday it will be a joint panel meeting with the HAP, so the perspective will be a bit different. I'm grateful to the FCD for briefing us in such great details concerning the development of ecotourism. As Wu Jiwai has said, for Long May, it is indeed a habitat that should be conserved by us for ecotourism. Now we have a controversy, and as a result, we see that many people are trying to rush there on the eve of it being converted into a beach covered with sand, and it has resulted in a lot of damage. Media reports told us that visitors went there and they damaged the animals, like they broke up the starfish, and even at the Yahoo Groupons, they advertise certain tours. Their selling point is that this is a farewell trip at Long May. I think you talked about law enforcement action. You would try to protect the flora and fauna. So I want to know if you would do the following. Now, in fact, we see it ourselves in the media reports. We see for ourselves what damage has been done. Volunteers and conservationists have taken their own initiative to go there to protect the wildlife, but then they are after all volunteers and they may not be able to do it in a systematic way. So my question is, yes, it has been planned to be developed into a beach and sooner or later you are going to kill it, but are you going to carry out some monitoring work so as to instill the proper concepts in the mind of the visitors there so that the wildlife there won't suffer too much? And as you have said, you have something beyond our imagination. That is, you are going to relocate the wildlife to Tiangkok, and you don't want them to die before they get relocated. So please keep the wildlife before they can be relocated. Yes, can I answer Mr. Jones' question? He's pointing out the irresponsible acts of certain visitors. A large number of visitors went to a popular place without paying attention to the capacity there. We would like to do a number of things there. First of all, we want to have a close liaison with the industry. For such popular places, it is no longer ecotourism. It is not sustainable. And we can't conserve nature, and we can't bring out the beautiful sceneries to our visitors. In fact, Hong Kong has many other places more amenable to tourism. I think visitors can consider alternative locations. If people really want to go to Long Mei, they really want to have a look there, I think it should be done in an organized way instead of just having hundreds of people rushing there at the same time, because they would just trample on it and then they would just destroy the whole place. Conservation can only be done on a voluntary places. Hong Kong is too large a place for us to keep an eye on it all the time. So we need to raise the awareness of the citizens. We should count on the citizens to help us to protect wildlife, not just Long Mei, but also other places. If we haven't got the awareness, we won't facilitate the protection. So we hope that by education and publicity, we can raise the awareness of the citizens. We'll be happy to see that there are so many volunteers going to Long Mei to help us with the work. And if necessary, the government would also render help. No, Madam Chair, no, you don't have time to follow up. He's just covering the general points. I can only allow Mr. Lam to finish what he was saying. No follow-up questions because of the time constraint. Kenneth Chen, I think the report just given to us shows us that if ecotourism becomes too commercialized, and if we can't achieve the educational objectives, then the government must do something about it. The buck rests on the government. Whenever we have organized tours in the name of ecotourism to a particular location, the intensity, the number of visitors, the number of vehicles going there must be closely watched. Otherwise, we can't protect the environment. We need to educate the local people. We need to educate the volunteers to help us with the protection. If we don't do it properly, then tour companies and district council members and whatnot will be organizing all sorts of eco tours. So we need to do the gatekeeping work properly. And what about if somebody rides on a private helicopter, lands in a country park, enjoys his high tea for 2 hours, would it still be within your jurisdiction to take action against such activities? I think it has been reported more than once. Somebody flew to Tai Long Sai in his private helicopter and just to have high tea there.
First of all, the tour groups which are too commercial. This is exactly why we like to liaise more with the sector and also to ask them to give more training to their workers. Together with the Tourism Board and Tourism Commission, we have regular liaison and also to look at the different hotspots for ecotourism, including Wetland Park and Maipo and other places in our countryside, to see whether they can afford the loading of such numbers of tourists. So we are keeping that under review. As for private helicopters, this problem also surfaced earlier on. And together with the Civil Aviation Department, we now understand that actually the helicopter is a civil aviation equipment or instrument, and each person that drives the helicopter should adhere to a code. If he wants to land in a non-helipad, he has to get the consent of the landowner first, or else he will be flouting his professional code of conduct, and there is a hotline that the CAD operates to take reports of illegal action done by helicopters. And I did refer the earlier incident at Tong Pa to CAD. This time around, it is Tai Long Sai 1. We have seen such report in the newspapers today. We are now gathering information, and the information will be relayed to the CAD so it can follow up on the discipline of that particular pilot. The relevant place that is under discussion is an unleased piece of government land, and therefore the pilot should have liaised with the lands department. We are the manager of country parks, and we will actively coordinate with the lands department and the CAD. We will refer the case to them to see what follow-up work will be done. I have a few more seconds. Apart from liaison with the sector, you have to do your statistics. Even if you liaise with them and yet they are organizing more tours, then in the end they are still going to destroy the environment. Chen Kin Po, the last point in your PPT is such that you have to train the tour guides better. If you want to have quality ecotourism, it's really important to train the human resources. Like in Taiwan, ecotourism is very mature. They have got the ecotourism federation so that the relevant people would be educated, trained, and also licensed. And in fact, media reporters, officials, and other people are also helping to do the publicity. So I'd like to know whether you will provide more training. Secondly, about marine ecology. In 2011, the Legislative Council supported the ban on trawling, and this will be implemented in 2012. I think this is an important step to replenish our marine resources. I'd like to ask you whether you have considered having a marine ecotourism. What measures, if yes, and how are you going to balance the interests of holidaymakers and the fishermen trade? Assistant Director, with regard to enhancing the skills of tour guides and also a licensing system, we are talking to the Hong Kong TB and Hong Kong TC, and we are taking stock of the experience of other places, and that is how they deal with the quality of their tourism workers. I understand that all tour guides receiving inbound tours have to be certified. And locally, since it covers a lot of people, we are still looking into a possible certification or accreditation system. There are many technical difficulties to be resolved. But I would encourage non-government entities to organize or operate more tour guide training courses. Say, for example, geopark tour guides. This was a measure launched by ourselves. And as I said, we like to learn from the positive experience of other places so we can enhance the skills and also monitoring of our tour guides. In Hong Kong, we haven't got the statistics. Maybe Mr. Au can supplement. Yes, let me supplement with regard to training. We agree with what the members said, and we have done more. In 2009, we opened the national level geopark, and therefore we have stepped up our training. In 2011, just for geopark alone, we organized the training course to explain the different rock features at geopark to tour guides, so as to try to enhance the quality of the tour guides. As for marine ecotourism, we know that at the end of the year, trawling will be totally banned. We believe it will help with the marine environment. We'll be looking closely at the situation, and in fact, we have started discussion with the sector to see how we can promote marine ecotourism. In these 1 or 2 years, we have launched a pilot in Sai Kung to encourage fishermen to change trade to operate ecotourism boat trips, and we may extend this to the south of Hong Kong. Ms. Helena Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I have 3 questions. The first one on Long May Artificial Beach. According to your professional assessment, can it really be turned into an ecotourism spot? And whether the Bureau will consider initially that kind of proposal for the consideration of the administration and the LegCo. Of course, everybody supports ecotourism. My question is, what do you expect to be the biggest obstacle for promoting ecotourism? Number 3, the felling of trees by illegal immigrants, including the Lo-Han Buddhist tree. Has that been reduced in any way? I will answer the first question, and my colleagues will take other questions. In fact, on Friday, members will have more opportunities to ask those questions. And also, the second part of your first question, whether the Environment Bureau will have our own position or write our own submission. First of all, the administration has already made a decision on Long May as a whole. And secondly, the Environment Bureau is thinking of Ting Kok Plus so that we can do a better ecological job. With regard to obstacles on the way of promotion, as we said, there are 3 aspects. Number 1, the loading capacity. If too many people descend on an environment at the same time, we have to be mindful of the loading capacity of a particular place. So we have to watch the numbers of people and how they should be distributed. Number 2, support facilities. You have to have the tourism spot, but you have to provide it with support measures. Number 3, people. The quality of the tourists, we hope to enhance their awareness. And number 2, the quality of our tour guides. These may be challenges. I'd like to talk about illegal felling of Buddhist pines. The AFCD and the police have implemented regulation measures for many years, and there is not a lot of felling of the Buddhist pines. But now incense trees are more felled. It is a local tree, It can grow in villages and around the coast. We can see that many mainlanders have come in to fell the incense trees. As long as they can access our shore, they can fell these trees. On Lantau, Hong Kong Island, New Territories, and also the northeast side, we have seen such sporadic fellings. And somehow they are doing it differently now. In the past, they would saw the trunk and then they would come back for the cut up trunk. But now they would actually cut up the trunk immediately and they take them away at the same time. And now they are more skillful and organized. And it is quite a tricky challenge. We have stepped up our cooperation with the police, and recently, through the police, we were able to intercept the illegal tree fellers. And most of the black spots have been known to us, and we conduct regular patrol together with the police. Of course, if we receive a report from the public, we would arrive at the scene in the first instance, and we would also look out for such acts during our patrol. Very often they do it in the middle of the night, and so it may mean more difficulty for us, but we'll do our best. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to say that the DAB has always been concerned about ecotourism, and we support the administration work in this regard. To support sustainability, the DAB said that we should have a kind of national trust fund like that in the UK, so we can protect the ecology, and also we can develop ecotourism while it is kept under control, and also so that there will be funding for daily operation. I have to declare interest because I hold a diver training license, and therefore I am confident in developing marine ecotourism in Hong Kong because Hong Kong has a lot of rich resources. The diving industry has said that we can develop in this regard, and they have made proposals, for example, to train fishermen so they can be ecotourism experts. But then the administration has not given any support. Like the Hong Kong Tourism Board, it doesn't introduce Hong Kong's diving spots and where they can do diving and what are the characteristics of diving in Hong Kong. And many fishermen would like to change trade. Now that they cannot do trawling, maybe they can develop in the direction of ecotourism. And maybe they would like to replace their licenses for ecotourism, but then the administration is not supporting them. Maybe they are now already operating illegally, but the administration has not given them a hand. I understand I don't have time today, but I'd like to know what the way forward will be after today's discussion. Will there be a detailed study program or report for our discussion in detail so we can further develop ecotourism? Mr. Au or Undersecretary? Mr. Au, I would answer first because you have talked about fishermen. Together with the Hong Kong TB and Hong Kong TC, we are working closely. Recently, they are making an all-out effort to promote ecotourism in the country parks, marine parks, and also geo-park. In November, December this year, they have launched a big program, and in a series of 5 weeks, there will be promotion involving the AFCD as well. In terms of the fishing trade, we are aware of the change, and therefore the pilot scheme in Sai Kung these 2 years is to help fishermen to become ecotourism tour guides. They will take people on a boat to the geopark, and the response has been very good. And we are going to spread the experience to other water bodies. And also we are talking about leisure fishing. One boat, one line, or one angler. We can give you more information later. You have to tell the different political parties to reduce squid catching boat tours because we do not have a lot of squids. I like to say that actually cleanliness on our shores should also be looked at. Actually, our shores are quite littered. You have to have a plan to clean it up.
Fishermen know where the littering is most serious, and they're now out of jobs, so perhaps we can ask the Marine Department to contract out the cleaning up work to the fishermen. I think there's a much broader issue. I think it's about the conservation scheme for the entire territory. And then, of course, we're talking about both local visitors as well as overseas tourists. For ecotourism, I think the most important point is to start with conservation and protection. It is an activity which emphasizes the concepts, the conceptual side. So it is something which should be conservation oriented. When we talked about Tinkoff Plus and when we talked about the CBD, the Convention on Biodiversity, since we have already joined the convention, we have signed the convention, we do have the responsibility to do what you were suggesting. And the starting point, we'll start the work next year. The next time I come, probably I will have the opportunity to tell you about what sort of arrangements will be in place. So we need to speed up, Mr. Low. This is about the ecotourism. We don't want it to cause damages to our environment. We want to keep our environment clean. One of the subtopics would be barrier-free. I've been to some eco tours. I went to Japan, and they have boardwalk, which is wheelchair friendly. So I want to know about the arrangements in Hong Kong. Other than littering and damaging the environment, we have also got some foreign species colonizing a lot of the nature of Hong Kong. So I want to know about the progress of dealing with that sort of plantation. Let me talk about the question of a barrier-free environment. Yes, we would like to provide a barrier-free environment for our visitors to come into contact with nature. Unfortunately, Hong Kong is quite hilly, so we try to see if we can have wheelchair-friendly trails as well as sections of country parks which are amenable to wheelchair users. For the latest addition to our facilities, the Woodside Biodiversity Center, again, it is barrier-free. And the Lions Nature Education Center is also barrier-free. Whenever we put in place new facilities, we hope that we can include the concept of barrier-free. I agree with what the member have said in relation to the spread of certain plants, but then it's a foreign species. It grows very quickly, it spreads very quickly, and it is quite similar to other plants, so it is difficult for us to use pesticide to deal with the problem. We try to rely on a biological way to deal with it, but then the outcome isn't that good, so we still have to remove them on a manual basis. We have already got certain targets, and we hope that we can scale down the problem. But then it takes time to deal with it. It will help us to increase the jobs. Do you have certain figures? Is it within your control or what? There's the Mecania micrantha. I think it is getting worse and worse. We haven't got the actual figures concerning the distribution of the Mecania micrantha. Probably they are along the urban fringe and also along the boundaries of the country parks. Inside country parks, they may not be able to compete with the local species. So around the country parks, you may see more of them, but in fact we are controlling them. It is a matter of perception. Still, we think that it is a foreign species. We have to deal with it in an active manner. Madam Chair, I would like to thank the Bureau for bringing up this issue. Just now, well, in fact, I'm also a licensed tour guide. In relation to the training programs and the skills upgrading programs, we do have a very high standards. I hope the Tourism Commission will enhance the programs. I think you need to make it attractive. Perhaps you can provide some subsidies to the tour guides so that they will be more interested in such programs. And then I would like to comment on the PowerPoint presentation. I think it tries to paint a very ideal situation. It lacks concrete details. I think if we have got 1,000 or 2 visitors rushing to a particular location during the weekend, it is indeed a problem, but I don't think the department has come up with a solution. For a tour guide, I can only decide on where to take my tour. I can't control where the others would also go. So perhaps the department can come up with something more specific so as to solve the problem. You emphasized a lot about public education, but to what extent? Would it be like in Taiwan, like all visitors will not leave behind a single piece of rubbish when they visit the tourist spots? I went to Taiwan. No problem at all. They just took the rubbish home. Even if we can't bring the rubbish home, can we find a place to deal with the problem of littering? Otherwise, it means that our colleagues will have to go uphill and collect all the rubbish left behind. And then the hiking trails. Yes, it's fine for you to prepare the signage so as to promote the hiking trails. What about the plants and flowers along the way? It is part of nature, so sometimes when plants have been destroyed by typhoon, it seems that no one will go there to do any remedial work. But would you do something about it? You've got 4 minutes. I want to know about the order of speakers. It's difficult for us to be the last to speak. Just now we raised our hands all at the same time. We knew that there wasn't sufficient time. 8 hands were raised and we just jotted down the names one after another. Now, I don't allow members to exceed the time limit. I just allow the officials to speak beyond the time limit. 40 seconds for you, Under Secretary. I don't know how to answer in that period of time. Yes, we will bring back the points to our bureau. Just now you said as to whether we can do the same as Taiwanese. I don't see why we can't do the same. sometimes we may have a lower level of awareness in littering. I think Taiwan has taken some time to achieve what they have done. I think time has come for us to do the same, and this is a priority areas for this term of government. Thank you, Undersecretary and your team. And that takes us to the last item on the agenda, and that is the proposal to set up a subcommittee on issues relating to air, noise, and light pollution. I think basically members agreed to set up such a subcommittee. We have asked our clerk to prepare the terms of reference as well as the time frame for completion of work. So please take a look at paper CB bracket 1, 191/12-13 bracket 05. So proposal to set up a subcommittee on issues relating to air, noise, and light pollution. We want to monitor and review government policies on initiatives to address problems of air, noise, and light pollution for better protection of public health. 5 points have been suggested as our major areas of work. So if you agree, we can report to the House come this Friday. And then what is lacking would be the number of meetings devoted to each area. I suggested that we should devote 2 meetings each so that we can complete our work in a year's time. So that will take us to the end of the year. So it will be end of year 2013 since we're already in the month of November. So can we make the recommendation to the House Committee? Mr. Sun Tsuen, is it better to wait for the subcommittee to be set up and then subcom members can make a decision among themselves? Some members have got their views concerning the setting up of subcommittees. So for the sake of efficiency, panels which intend to set up subcommittees are asked to indicate the time needed. So even before we set up the subcommittee, I hope you will authorize me to answer the questions if they get raised at the House meeting. Of course, when we have some concrete suggestions to make, even though we reach the end of the duration, I'm sure you'll go back to lobby for your party's support to carry on the work. In our views, if not, then we endorse the setting up of the subcommittee. Thank you for your support. The Secretariat will prepare our report to the House come this Friday. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.